Coming up in this episode of Reading Rich Vlogs. Today, I have made a mistake. If you read it, you know what I'm talking about?
I have a few problems with this book.
I'm confused.
Hello, my beautiful bookish people. This vlog is going to be a combination of what I did film for day 5. Day 6, I didn't film at all because I was in a really bad funk. And then today is day 7, and I'm feeling better. I'm still not feeling quite back to normal. I accidentally let my pain get out of control by getting off with taking my pain medication, which you'll hear about later in this vlog. And it took me a little bit to recover from that and get in a good mindset again, and just get to a point where I could physically pick up a camera without my wrists screaming.
So, that's a fun thing.
Anyways, a lot of what I've done over the past few days has just been pure reading to get my mind off the pain. And the good news is that it worked. The bad news is that I'm really disappointed with Fruits Basket, and I'm also really sad that I'm on this cliffhanger with the end of Saga Volume 9. If you read it, you know what I'm talking about. I need more Saga in my life, so part of that got me into a funk too. And then with volumes 7 through 12 of Fruits Basket, the collector's edition,
I'm confused.
Part of it could be because I don't know enough about Japanese culture to make a call on what the books are actually trying to get at, because there were some things that were happening that I thought were going to be really cool and progressive, and then it just super backpedaled, and I'm not sure whether it was censored, whether that's a mismatch of me not knowing the culture that goes behind that, or if it really is queer baiting that then becomes extremely heteronormative, where I didn't think it fit the characters.
I don't know.
I'm really disappointed with the end of Fruits Basket, and I'm hoping that I'll like the anime more. I know that I really liked the first season of the 2019 anime. That still holds true.
But
Oof, that ending was really rough. Really, really rough. It had pacing issues. It just went areas that I did not expect at all, and not in a good way. And I felt like I got a side story, and it felt more like filler than it felt like it matched with the rest of the pacing from books 1 through 6. So I'm not sure where I stand on whether or not I recommend Fruits Basket, because the first part of it I really enjoyed. The last half of it I really did not enjoy. Saga I wholeheartedly recommend, because I wasn't sure where it was going at first, and then as the books went on further and further, the better the social commentary got, and just, oh my gosh. It's not safe for work, it's a little grungy, and gloriously so in my opinion, so it may not be for everybody,
but
I really think you should read Saga if you can. Awkward transition. One thing that I did discover that I didn't capture on camera the other night is that I think I've finally found a form of bullet journaling that I actually really enjoy. And for me, that comes in the digital form, because the reason I didn't like physical bullet journaling is because sometimes my hands get shaky and weird, and I'll be writing really pretty, and
then all of a sudden it goes whomp.
And using whiteout is not my favorite thing to do, and then rewrite over. And with a digital form, you just hit the back button, and it's glorious, which I didn't know that I would enjoy, but I am, which makes me happy. Awkward transition. One of the books that I read earlier that I haven't talked about yet is Scott Odell's book, The Black Pearl, which is narrated by...
Who is it narrated by?
Which is narrated by Johnny Heller.
I have a few problems with this book.
One of the things is it's supposed to be historical fiction with fantastical elements, like El Manta Diablo, which I need more of that lore right now. So if anybody knows of an Own Voices book that involves that, I'm super interested to look at it. So let's talk a minute about this book. It has some issues. It is set in Baja California, and the narrator doesn't actually pronounce much of the Spanish words properly,
At all.
which makes me sad. And this book is also supposed to be historical fiction, which I don't really have a problem if you're not of that time period and writing about that time period, or of that culture and writing about that culture, so long as you actually do your research and have some readers look at it who also know that period and know that culture and can vouch for it. Otherwise, you need to classify it as purely fantasy, not historical fiction. This book, I cannot speak to whether it is accurate or not, because I'm not from Baja California, but I can tell you that the language that is used to write this book is rather offensive. It's written by a white guy. For the time period where it was written, white guys calling Native Americans or indigenous people Indians was acceptable. That is no longer acceptable. It should never have been acceptable. And this book does not age well because of that. But not only that, I feel like we're getting a glimpse into this historical fiction thing where you get really cool elements of El Manto Diablo, but then the narrator doesn't actually pronounce the Spanish properly. Why would you pick a guy to read a book if he can't pronounce the words? This book is written by an old white guy and read by an old white guy.
I'm sad.
I was originally given this book when I was a child. And as a child, I thought it was kind of boring and a little weird, and I liked it because of El Manto Diablo, but I never found any more books along that line. And that still holds true for me. I really do not care for this book, especially after looking into it, and now that I can recognize that the narrator isn't even doing a good job with the narration because he's not even pronouncing it properly. Do not recommend that. Do not recommend this book at all. I don't know why that this was viewed as a children's classic in the first place. I don't get it. I really don't. So since I was so disappointed with my first read for the Reading Rush, which also matched the prompt that started with "the," I started to reread The Near Witch, which I still haven't finished, but instead I switched to another audiobook, The Poet X, read and written by Elizabeth Acevedo, and that was really cool. For my personal star scale, I go by how often I will reread it, not necessarily how great the book is in general. So I gave it 3.5 stars because it was good. I may reread it, but it'll be a rare reread for me. It was beautifully written in verse, and it's written about and written like slam poetry, which was really cool to see. And I am so glad that the author narrates it because you can just hear the passion of the characters that she has brought to life, which is fabulous. So the first half of the book, I don't know whether I was just kind of out of it, and that's why I didn't really love the first half, but the second half of the book, I was totally there for. But yeah, that's how I felt about The Poet X. So the Goodreads blurb for this book is fabulous for setting up what to expect, which I greatly appreciate, and it goes like this. A young girl in Harlem discovers slam poetry as a way to understand her mother's religion and her own relationship to the world. Debut novel of renowned slam poet Elizabeth Acevedo, Xiomara Batista feels unheard and unable to hide in her Harlem neighborhood. Ever since her body grew into curves, she has learned to let her fists and her fierceness do the talking. But Xiomara has plenty she wants to say, and she pours all her frustration and passion onto the pages of a leather notebook, reciting the words to herself like prayers, especially after she catches feelings for a boy in her bio class named Amon, who her family can never know about. With Mommy's determination to force her daughter to obey the laws of the church, Xiaomara understands that her thoughts are best kept to herself, so when she is invited to join her school's slam poetry club, she doesn't know how she could ever attend without her mommy finding out, much less speak her words out loud. But still, she can't stop thinking about performing her poems, because in the face of a world that may not want to hear her, Xiaomara refuses to be silent. Awkward transition. Anyways, here's the rest of the vlog. I hope you enjoy. Hello, my beautiful bookish people. Today, I have made a mistake. Last night was the first night in a long time that I actually got really good sleep. And I actually feel well rested for once. But I'm gonna be 3.5 hours late taking my normal pain regimen, which means right now, a lot of my joints feel like they're on fire. So let's see if reading volume 6 of Fruits Basket helps take my mind off the pain or not, or if I'm gonna switch to Netflix. Last night I finished volume 5, still really enjoying the series. I don't have a whole lot more to say. I'm really excited for volume 6, and volume 7 through 12 are now ready for me to pick up from the library. Editor Victoria here. I wanted to make a note that I did decide to call the library and let them know our situation, and they said to do exactly what we had already been doing, which was, you know, definitely wear a mask, use hand sanitizer, ask for your books to be pulled from the shelves ahead of time by ordering them online, and then come in and pick them up at that specific area and then check them out that way, because they feel like they're safe enough to handle that since we aren't running a fever in this household. Anyways, here's some chill time-lapse footage of reading for you. If you've made it this far in the video, let me know how your reading rush went in the comments below. And tell me, what is your favorite thing to do to get you out of a funk? For me today, for some reason, taking a shower really helped with that. And I guess I'll see you in the next video. Bye!